Hello 10th graders, welcome to the 3.8 step 1 video. At this point you should have already picked the prompt or the question that you want to answer in your essay, and you should have started brainstorming how you are going to answer that question. That means you are ready to start thinking about your thesis statement, and that's what this whole video is going to be about. So it might have been a while since you've written a 5-paragraph essay, and maybe you need a little bit of a refresher on the structure. The first paragraph in a 5-paragraph essay is your introduction. We're going to start our essays off with a hook, which is a way to get the audience's attention. Then you're going to give us some background information about the book While the Locust Slept and the author, Peter Razor, and you're also going to introduce the theme you'll be writing about. Then the very last sentence in your introduction paragraph is going to be your thesis statement. This is arguably the most important part of your essay because it's the main argument you're making throughout the entire essay. Then you're going to write 3 body paragraphs. This is basically the meat of your essay. The 3 body paragraphs are going to give evidence that supports your thesis statement or your main argument. So in each body paragraph, you're going to have a quote, an example from the book that supports that argument. For our 5-paragraph essay, your first paragraph is going to focus on the beginning of the book, second one will focus on the middle of the book, third one will focus on the end of the book. The conclusion paragraph really is kind of mirroring the introduction paragraph. You're going to come back to your thesis statement, summarize the main points that you made throughout the essay, and end with a super memorable concluding statement. So this is the overall structure of a 5-paragraph essay, but in this video, we are focusing only on the thesis statement, or the final sentence in your introduction paragraph. What is a thesis? A thesis is the central argument, main argument you make in an essay or a speech. It has 3 main components. A thesis needs to be arguable, so you and I could debate about it. It needs to be specific, focused on a specific point, and it needs to be based on evidence. So a thesis, it shouldn't be too obvious. Something like Cooper is a high school, that's a really obvious statement. You and I couldn't really have a debate about that. In order to make that more specific and more arguable, we could say something like, Cooper does a better job preparing students for the future than many other Minnesota high schools. This is something that you and I could debate about. It's also something that we could use evidence to support. Like maybe we could look at test scores or GPA, and we could use some evidence to support that argument. In our essays, our thesis statements need to be based on textual evidence. So that means direct quotes from the book While the Locust Slept and specific examples from the book. So as you're writing your thesis, I want to make sure you're thinking about, does my argument connect to the text? Does it hold up based on the evidence that I see in the book? So let's look at a couple examples of thesis statements that are based on the play we read in the fall, A Raisin in the Sun. A thesis statement should always be 1 sentence long. So I know this looks like a long sentence, and it is, because it's specific and it's arguable, but it is only 1 sentence. This thesis statement says, the character Ruth Younger from A Raisin in the Sun won't give up on her dream to build a better home for her family, and uses the symbol of wanting a new home to symbolize wanting better for her family. So we see that this is focused on a specific point. It's about Ruth and her dream for a better life. It's also based on evidence. We could open up the play and find some quotes that support this argument. Let's look at one more thesis statement. This one's about Mama. In A Raisin in the Sun, Lena Younger, Mama's dream, is to buy a house for her whole family. And Lorraine Hansberry uses the symbol of the house to represent a new beginning for the Younger family. So this thesis statement is arguing that the house is actually a symbol for the new beginning that the Younger family wants. It's specific and it's based on evidence. So something we've been talking about as we've read While the Locust Slept is 3 key themes. Thesis statements are often based off of themes from literature. And for this summative assessment for your essay, your thesis is going to be answering a question connected to one of our 3 theme topics. The theme is just a fancy way of saying a central message or lesson of the text. It should be written as a full sentence, and we're answering the question, what is the message of the text? Or what is the meaning the author wants us to understand? Themes are also based on evidence from the book. So the three themes that we've been looking at in While the Locust Slept are growing up in the margins, standing up to oppression, and the subjectivity of truth. These three themes are super important to understand. And so if you need a little bit of a refresher at any point, there is a video over in the 3.6 folder on Schoology that goes through and explains these themes in depth. So go ahead and watch that if you want a refresher, or ask me and we can talk about it. So themes are often written as topics, like the importance of family, or money, or racism. These are themes from A Raisin in the Sun. But a really important part of understanding a theme is thinking about, like, what message is the author trying to teach us about this topic? So after reading A Raisin in the Sun, what message did we actually learn about the importance of family or money or racism? In order to write that out as a complete sentence, we're going to answer that question. What message are we learning about this topic? For the importance of family, we could say family, no matter what their condition is important and should be treasured. So I think that's a message that Lorraine Hansberry was trying to teach us in the play. For money, we could say pride is more important than money. For racism, we could say we learned the lesson that racism that is disguised as something else is still racism. For While the Locust Slept, we need to start thinking about what is Peter Razor's point about this theme. So we see that throughout Peter's childhood, he's marginalized, he grows up in the margins. But what is Peter Razor trying to teach us about that theme? You can think about what aspect of Peter's identity are you going to focus on, and what lesson is he trying to teach us? For standing up to oppression, we can see throughout the book that Peter is oppressed by many people and things in his life, but we also see that he starts to learn how to stand up to this oppression, and he has some people throughout the book that help him stand up to oppression. So what lesson is Peter Razor trying to teach us about standing up to oppression? Finally, with the subjectivity of truth, we see that Peter's side of the story is often really different from the state school or from John, who are, trying to cover up the real truth or Peter's truth. What message or lesson is Peter trying to teach us about the importance of telling the truth? So this is a really important part for you to think about with a literary essay. It's really, what is the point or the lesson that Peter Razor is trying to teach us about this theme? Now that you've done some brainstorming, you've come up with some examples for how you might answer your essay prompt, you probably know what you want to argue in this essay, and it's time to try out writing your own thesis statement. You can use this outline or this sentence frame to get started. So your thesis statement can say, While the Locust Slept by Peter Razor communicates the message that, what is Peter trying to teach us? Go ahead and take a stab at writing your thesis statement, and once you're done, go ahead and show me so that we can make sure you're on the right track and that you're headed in the right direction for your essay. Good luck.